Real estate wholesaling is one of the most talked about low capital ways to make money in real estate, and it's also one of the most misunderstood. Some people pitch it like free money with no risk. Others say it's shady or impossible. The truth is more practical than either of those extremes. Wholesaling can work, but it is a real sales business, and if you want to get started with little or no money, you need to understand exactly what you're doing. Today I'm breaking it down. At its core, real estate wholesaling means finding a property seller, getting that property under contract at a price low enough to create a spread, and then assigning that contract to an investor buyer for a fee. You are not usually buying the property yourself. You're controlling the deal through a contract and then selling your position in that contract to someone who wants to close on the deal. Your profit is the assignment fee, the difference between the contracted price and what the end buyer is willing to pay. That means wholesaling is not really about houses, it's about marketing, lead generation, negotiation, and understanding investor math. The appeal is obvious. You can participate in real estate without needing a down payment, mortgage approval, or rehab budget the way a house flipper would. That lowers the barrier to entry. It also teaches high-value skills. You learn how to find distressed sellers, talk to motivated property owners, evaluate deals, build investor relationships, and understand market value. Those are useful real estate skills, whether you stay a wholesaler or eventually become an investor yourself. But here's the key. Low money doesn't mean low effort. It usually means higher hustle. Technically, you can start wholesaling with very little money if you're willing to do a lot of manual work. But no money is often overstated. You may still need some money for basic tools like gas, phone, simple marketing, maybe a website or CRM, and maybe earnest money depending on how your contracts are structured. So a more honest phrase is, you can start wholesaling with very little capital compared to other real estate strategies. If you're expecting literally $0 and zero risk, that's not realistic. But if you mean you don't have tens of thousands to buy a property, then yes, wholesaling is one of the more accessible entry points. Before trying to lock up deals, you need to understand the local market. Know the neighborhoods investors like. Know rough ARV, after repair value, ranges. Know what rents look like. Know where distressed properties are more common. Know where cash buyers are active. If you don't understand your market, you won't know whether a deal is actually a deal. And that's dangerous because you can end up tying up sellers with unrealistic contracts or bringing junk deals to buyers and destroying your reputation. Start by studying sold comps, investor-friendly neighborhoods, and common rehab levels. Get fluent in local pricing. A lot of beginners obsess over finding deals first, but buyers matter just as much. If you get a property under contract and have no idea who would buy it, you have a problem. Start building relationships with local investors, flippers, landlords, and rehabbers early. Go to local real estate meetups. Join Facebook groups for investors. Look up recent cash purchases in your area and see who's active. When you talk to buyers, ask what kinds of deals they want. Zip codes, price points, property types, rehab levels, minimum margins. That information helps you know what to look for. This is the lifeblood of wholesaling. You make money when you find people with a reason to sell fast, or simply, not necessarily people with beautiful retail-ready homes. Motivated seller situations can include inherited properties, vacant homes, deferred maintenance, tired landlords, divorce situations, pre-foreclosure, out-of-state owners, tax delinquency, and homeowners who simply don't want to list tra. Additionally, if you're starting low budget, your lead generation methods will likely be sweat-heavy. Driving for dollars, finding distressed-looking properties and contacting the owners, cold calling lists, texting leads where legally allowed, posting online ads, networking with probate attorneys, contractors, or real estate agents who encounter distressed sellers. This part is work. You're not waiting for deals to appear. You're prospecting. Wholesaling is sales, and a lot of beginners don't realize how important communication is. When you talk to a seller, you're trying to understand their motivation, their timeline, the condition of the property, their price expectations, and whether a cash-style investor solution actually makes sense. The best wholesalers are not aggressive stereotype closers. They are calm, clear, empathetic, and good at uncovering what's actually going on. You need to ask questions like, why are you thinking about selling? How soon do you want to move? What repairs does the property need? What would be a good outcome for you? Have you considered listing with an agent? You also need to be honest about what you are doing. Depending on your state, wholesaling rules vary, and disclosure matters. If the property's after repair value is $400,000, needs $80,000 in rehab, and your buyer wants to be all in at 70% of ARV, you cannot contract it at $350,000 and expect it to wholesale. You need to understand investor math. The famous 70% rule is only a rough starting point and not universal, but the basic idea matters. Cash buyers need margin for repairs, holding costs, closing costs, and profit. If you don't know how to estimate a rough rehab budget and back into a maximum allowable offer, you will waste everyone's time. You need contracts that are legally valid in your state, assignment agreements where allowed, and clear disclosures. Real estate is regulated. This is not the place to freestyle based on a random Instagram guru. It is worth paying a local real estate attorney to review your paperwork and make sure your process is compliant. Some states have stricter rules around wholesaling than others, and you need to know them. Do not build a business on shaky legal assumptions. Once you have a good contract, you bring it to your buyer's list. You communicate clearly, property details, asking price, estimated repairs, comps, access instructions, assignment fee, and closing timeline. If the deal is real, buyers will show interest. If nobody wants it, the problem is usually one of three things: bad numbers, bad area, or bad buyer list. Over time, this gets easier because you know your market better and your buyers trust you more. Real estate wholesaling is not magic, but it is a legitimate way to start learning real estate with low capital. It's basically a lead generation and deal sourcing business wrapped around property. If you like talking to people, handling rejection, analyzing deals, and staying persistent, it can work. If you hate sales, hate uncertainty, or want quick guaranteed money, it's probably not your path. Wholesaling can be a real entry point into real estate, but only if you respect it as a real business and not a gimmick. Learn your market, understand the law, build buyer relationships, and get comfortable doing the hard part, finding and talking to motivated sellers. Subscribe to Off Clock Hustle for more honest breakdowns of side hustles and business ideas. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.